So hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and I'm bearing another set of bad news unfortunately, as Xbox has also decided to follow Nintendo's footsteps and increase their hardware prices and video game prices. So we're seeing the cheapest Xbox console, being the Series S 512GB, now receiving an $80 increase from the original $300 to $380, and the Xbox Series X, being the standard console, would you want to say, or the more premium console, has received a $100 price bump, going from the original $500 price point to $600 price point now. And of course, all games all around have seen a $10 increase from the 70 now up to 80. So alongside the Xbox accessories have also seen price increases, as you can see below in the list. So I want to talk about what this means for the console market, or console gaming as a whole, as PlayStation is most likely going to follow the same footsteps as Xbox now and Nintendo, as they'll have an opportunity to increase their prices and increase their margins. So why the heck not? So this will likely lead to a lot of people being priced out of their hobby, which sucks, honestly. Especially as consoles are used to present themselves as the entry point to gaming, as the budget-friendly option, would you want to say, and that's no longer the case. And I think the consoles are slowly starting to lose their identity with those price increases that we've seen in recent times. So I think if you're in the market to buy a PlayStation specifically now, as that's so far as of the time of recording this video, that is the only platform that has not received a price increase as of yet. It will most likely happen very soon. So if you're in the market for a PlayStation, I would advise you to buy one now before they get even more expensive. And while we're on the topic of PlayStation and console gaming as a whole, I think while consoles appear to be slightly cheaper than PC, they're in fact not, as there's so many hidden costs associated with owning a console, including the fact that console makers, or PlayStation and Sony, basically have an absolute monopoly over their storefronts. So less sales, higher video game prices, just overall means it's a bad environment for the consumer, which results in us paying significantly more on average than you would on other platforms such as PC, for instance. And with the way console gaming is going now, with the PlayStation 5 Pro costing $700, the Xbox Series X now costing $600, or even more if you want the 2TB version, it makes no sense to buy a console now, especially given that over its lifetime it's probably going to cost you more than what a PC would, especially as PC has no hidden costs. You just pay for the thing, for the hardware, and you don't have to pay to play online. You don't have to have subscriptions. You don't have to pay extortionate video game prices as you would on console, because there's significantly more competition. You have Steam that does constant sales, you have Epic Games, you have G2A, you have like GOG, I think the other storefront called, that's also very well received. So I think nowadays it's starting to make more and more sense to save up slightly more and just build a PC. And that is why I wanted to make this video. I have thrown a quick parts list to try and get it as close as possible to 1440p high settings, which is equivalent of the console standard, as most consoles would tend to natively render games at 1440p, depending on the game of course, and then upscale it to 4K. So this is kind of what I've tried to do with the PC parts list that will show you in a second. But it is important to note as well that it will be more expensive than a console. But with PC gaming, where you get the real savings is behind the sales, the cheaper video game prices, which is kind of the point. You want to be at a platform that you don't have to pay to play online, and there's constant sales, as I mentioned earlier. So overall, in the long term, you'll be paying significantly less, even though it will be more expensive in the short term. Yeah, okay, let's go on to the PC part list, and I will show you the parts that I have chosen for the build and give you a brief overview of why I've selected them. And yeah, what I've done is I have chosen the AMD Ryzen 5 7600. The reason why I've chosen this one over the 7600X is because the 7600X, while it is better, it offers single-digit improvements, which I don't think is worth it for the price increase. I have chosen a Thermalright Peerless Assassin for the cooler, which is very you know, it is quite cheap and offers quite good performance, and it's also compatible with the AM5 platform, which our CPU is based on, and also means that you'll be able to, for the next 5 years, normally AMD supports their platforms for 5 years or so, so that means that you'll be able to just change the CPU in 4 or 5 years for a better one without having to change the motherboard, which is, you know, a big win. And for the motherboard, I went for the MSI B650. It has Wi-Fi, much like consoles do, so that was kind of the idea behind that. If you don't want Wi-Fi and you'd rather run Ethernet, you would save a few dollars doing that. But I have included this as consoles do offer Wi-Fi, so I thought it only makes sense to include a motherboard that is capable of, you know, that, or to include a motherboard that can connect to your Wi-Fi without Ethernet. And moving on, we have 1 TB of storage, 32 gigs of RAM, which is actually more than the consoles have at the moment, as they normally share their RAM and video memory is normally in one. So yeah, there's that. I have chosen to use the Intel Arc B580. It's released in December, if I'm not mistaken, 2024, and it was all around very well received by pretty much everyone, including Linus Tech Tips and Gamers Nexus. And it is actually one of the few GPUs that I think you can find on MSRP, which is, you know, a win. It can be quite pricey, but it's normally should cost $289.99. So I don't know why it costs that much on Amazon, but you know, moving on. I wouldn't go for anything AMD based at this price point, or anything Nvidia based, as Nvidia is just notorious for, at the moment anyway, for not having anything MSRP, which sucks, and AMD 7600 was not received well at all, much like the 4060 and the 5060, 8 gig especially. So yeah, this is what I would go for. And the case is just a standard ATX case, which ATX refers to how big the case is. ATX is just your normal size, if that makes sense, which would be the same as the motherboard as well. It's an ATX motherboard. Again, just simply referring to how big the component is. ATX is the norm, so most parts, well, basically it's just the case, motherboard, and often power supplies that you have to worry about how big they are. But yeah, and we have went for a 650 watt power supply, and while it is on the low end, it is more than enough for a 376 watt estimated wattage. Ideally, in order, the way you figure out how big of a power supply, or how many watts your power supply should have, is you just times the estimated wattage by 1.4, and that would give you the amount that you need. So yeah, this one is more than good enough for these components, although if your budget allows, I would get something larger, as you don't want to have to change the power supply when you get more powerful parts, as obviously they'll be drawing more power, and often with 650 watts may not be enough to power your future upgrades. So if you can get a slightly bigger power supply, something like 850 would offer a good amount of wiggle room for future upgrades. But that's not to say that you won't be able to make any upgrades with this, of course. So yeah, this is what I would do. The ideal PC I would build in 2025 for 1440p high settings, and this is how much it would cost. Obviously bear in mind that this is with $8.99 shipping costs estimated. And yeah, I'll put this in the description of the video to hopefully help you out, and you can obviously make adjustments, change parts around, etc, etc. The site is called PC Part Picker. It normally is quite good at telling you what parts are compatible with what, or if there's any issues, it would tell you, as you can see here, based on compatibility. And when you see notes below, it tells you where each component goes and stuff like that. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. And I would obviously encourage you to do your own research, as that is half of the fun, the other half of course being building it. So if you like Lego, this is basically big boy Lego. So yeah, but yeah, that's everything from me. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or informative in any way, I'd very much appreciate it if you could give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike, and consider subscribing to the channel, as you'll be helping me build a community in which we all basically love talking about video games or anything tech related. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.